I was a very talkative kid, and I remember this pivotal moment standing in the kitchen when I was probably like 9 years old, and he said to me, "You talk too much. It is going to get you killed." And I consciously made the decision I was going to stop talking.
Wow.
And it was like I remember the next day going to class and just being like, I hear people asking questions that I have answers to. I'm like, I'm not trying to get in trouble. I'm not answering that question. And I carried that a lot with me.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode. Today, I have the pleasure of bringing you all Miss Selena Chambers. I know her. I just actually met her in October, but since meeting her, I've gotten to know her in so many different aspects as far as like business, but also in like the Lord. So, like, just a bunch of different avenues, and also as a leader. So many great things that I've gotten a chance to experience in such a quick amount of time. So, that's not always often that you meet someone you just like, get to know them. So, yeah, there we go. Yeah. So I have Selena here, and I just want to take this time to say, welcome, Selena.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me be on your podcast. This is cool. I don't know what you expecting from me,
Nope.
but we just here.
Yeah. So that's actually the purpose of this podcast. I like to have open conversations. I believe that the most authentic conversations happen when they're not planned because we get to speak from the heart and not from like the paper. I like to open up by always knowing like and asking the question, how do you feel? I know that in society we normally say, how are you doing today? And people say what?
I'm fine.
Fine, right? And it's like really they may have experienced something that could have changed someone's life. So I want to open the question to you saying, how do you feel today? And then also what's one thing that life is teaching you this week? Let's get some knowledge.
Oh man, that question, how do you feel, is huge. Is it okay if I give like a random story about how you
Please
feel?
speak your heart.
So a couple many years ago. Wow, I'm old. I'm 26, if you consider that old, whatever. I remember a couple years ago, someone asked me to participate in like spoken word, and I procrastinated and pulled something together at the last moment, and it was about like masking feelings or whatever. And it isn't until probably about a year ago that someone made it apparent that I like repressed my feelings. And it was because I was accustomed to people saying, "How do you feel?" And I'd be like, "I'm good," or "I'm tired." Tired is like this like blanket statement that covers everything. You tired? And then someone said to me like, "When are you tired, or are you tired like you're sleepy, or is your soul tired?"
Wow.
And I thought about that, and I was like, my soul is tired. And today, actually, on a positive note, I feel very inspired and joyful and excited. And life is just thankfully teaching me grace and discipline and vision all at the same time. And I'm very excited about being challenged to walk in all of those things over the course of this year. It was funny because it's like we work in finance, and you can do this for so long and you don't realize the patterns you keep noticing. And one of the patterns I saw was wealth doesn't happen by accident. Like people don't just trip, fell, became a billionaire. If we did, I'd be putting sticks in front of me. Can I trip and fall here? Like, do I step here or here? And it's like, no, that happens with intention and purpose. And what is intention? Intention means to be stretched, and it's a kind of a side word of attention, which is to focus. Stretch with focus.
Wow.
And so, how do you stretch with focus? That's a discipline, and that's just consistency. And so like I learned that with money. I was like, wealth doesn't happen by accident. Wealth happens with discipline. And that's pretty much everything in life. And I've just noticed this past couple of weeks, like discipline has been showing up all the time. One of the guys who came out a couple days ago, he was talking to me about, he said, "Do you see a lot of discipline in your everyday societal structure?" And I was like, no, I'm 26 years old, and I feel like now I have to force myself to become disciplined.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it because now it's a conscious thing. And like I look at all these people who are successful. Yes, they have vision. Some of them have backing and support. A lot of us have a lot more support than we think we do. They, maybe they have money, maybe they have special skills. They just have the discipline to do the things that they don't want to do just because it needs to be done. I mean, even in following Christ, to be a disciple is to be someone who has discipline, to follow God's word and God's teachings, God's instructions, even when you don't want to, even if it's inconvenient. That's discipline.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited that like that clarity is in my mind, and now I'm like, okay, so now I gotta go do it. Now I gotta go do it. I gotta go love people when I don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go serve when I don't feel like it. I have to read my Bible at 4 a.m., even though, whoa, I am delirious. I am delirious. The next challenge for February is, so are you gonna go to the gym? Me looking quietly at that question on my paper, like, I don't know. But I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited that like it's one of those words that I felt like I understood that now I just feel like it's making so much more sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you, because like from what I've learned so far is that you're a really reflective person. I mean, you really are not afraid to think deep about things, right? Bring us back. Like, what was Selena like as a kid? Like, were you always this way? Were you always like very like, advanced and just like in tune with what's going on? Like, what was your childhood like?
Um, that's funny. I credit being reflective
Mm-hmm.
as a repercussion or an externality of having to be silent. So I don't think my childhood. I have two parents. My dad's Jamaican. My mom is Antiguan American, and I remember being a kid and wanting them to get divorced because they were miserable. Like they were
Wow.
just miserable all the time. At least from my perspective. I hope she's not offended if she sees this. But I that's how I remember them,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember my dad at some point in my childhood just like decided he didn't like me anymore. And in that process, he has said a lot of like notable things to me that I never forgot. And I believe changed the entire trajectory of where I was going in life.
Wow.
So I was a very talkative kid. And I remember this pivotal moment standing in the kitchen when I was probably like 9 years old. And he said to me, "You talk too much. It is going to get you killed." And I consciously made the decision I was going to stop talking.
Wow.
And it was like I remember the next day going to class and just being like, I hear people asking questions that I have answers to. I'm like, I'm not trying to get in trouble. I'm not answering that question. And it just, I carried that a lot with me. And so for a period of time, it kind of like made me isolated from people, but it also made me very observant and hyper aware of people.
Mm-hmm.
And, trauma, there's healing in that. But the advantage is just like, what am I doing? How am I responding? And as I started to understand, like, okay, this is a skill now because I'm aware of the way people are responding to things, and I'm aware of how I'm responding, and my emotions feel very heightened because I'm not talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
It'll, as I started to, grow from that and made the decision to start healing from that, it became a lot of self reflection because I'm
Mm-hmm.
just used to not talking to people. Like, I'm good. I'll learn to journal. I'll go sit outside. I used to talk myself to sleep because I wasn't really talking to people every day. But I would just do that. And that kind of helped me become more reflective unconsciously. Like
Wow.
I would talk through my day, what I thought happened, why I thought it happened, how I wish it happened, whatever. And then I started to read a lot. And so those things I think helped make me more reflective. And then as I got older, couldn't really run from leadership. I'm only learning that now. I realized it made it easier to kind of like read people for where they were and
Mm-hmm.
how to help them. But yeah, as a kid, I think I should have been a chatty Cathy, but I became very quiet and I just started to look at things not just at face value anymore because I think it's easy to do that if you immediately start talking.
Yeah.
But if you stay quiet, you kind of have to absorb so much more around you because your brain is just holding in this information.
Yeah.
And yeah.
No, that was really powerful. I mean, I knew her, guys, but I didn't know that about her. But like that question now even resonates more with me. Like, wow, like sometimes we do lose our voice, right? And not even always for a bad thing, but sometimes like we're silent. But then sometimes we mistake like someone who's silent for someone who may not be aware. But then when you realize, like when you started being silent, you started understanding the world in even higher magnitude, because it's like you're not contributing your thoughts, but you're able to like be with your thoughts internally, but you can see things for what they really are in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's power in both of those, of like, using your voice, but also like the power of silence, like to her off the camera, because like, I resonate a lot with that. It says like even in the Bible it says like a wise, like even a fool, if he's silent, is considered wise. Like if you don't say nothing, you could be the wisest person in the room. Wow. So how did so okay, so you lost that happened, you stopped talking. Now did you stay like that for high school or in college? You went to some international affairs and everything, right? So like what was going on from you being silent and then it seemed like I don't know, you tell me what was going on.
I had a very strange experience where so my first introduction to Christianity was um I'm not going to go too deep into the story, but I had this revelation at 15 years old that like there are pieces of this whole human experience I will never have control over.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, so what do I do with those pieces? I could, and this is the specific thing that got to me. I could wake up tomorrow and have schizophrenia and have like I can't do anything about it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing I can do about it, and that scared me. And that's how I gave my life to Christ. My
Wow.
mom became committed to Christ when I was about 8 or 9 years old because we set the house on fire and I almost died. That's just,
We who I'm sorry.
you say I have brothers.
Okay.
They'll say me. I say we. This was a team effort.
Okay.
This was a team mistake. But I almost died. I was asleep in the bed and
Wow.
the bed was on fire.
Wow.
And after that, she made us start going to church.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my introduction to church. And I was adamant, like, I don't want to be at church. I just wanted to sleep on Sundays. Like, I wanted to keep sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
But then the more she kept making me go to church, the more resistant I became.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is, I love my mom. She's not a traditional mom in that she's in my house, you got to do this. She's kind of like, well, why? Like, what is it? My brothers, like my dad eventually, he told them they didn't have to go. Mm-hmm. Me, she made me go. And she made me go and she made me prove why I didn't want to go. And wow. So she reverse psychology me into trying to prove. My goal was to disprove the need for God, and I found the need for God. Mm. And then it came to a point when I was about 14 or 15 where I was like, all right, so God exists, but I really don't want to do this. I just don't want to do it. And then when I had that revelation that like, oh, wait, there's like a whole little like pocket corner experience of life that I have no control over. And that uncertainty scared the mess out of me. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, all right. And that actually led me to give my life to Christ. Wow. Now that put me on a path of like just wanting to please and serve God. But I was still driven heavily by fear. So like I didn't have a lot of friends. And the friends I had regularly disrespected me and were unpleasant. Some of them were great, still like them, but looking back, those relationships were not healthy. Mm. And when it came to speaking up for myself, when people would I just didn't do it. Mm. But when it came to serving God, oh, here for it, here for it. And that's kind of where I started to find my voice was in reading the Bible, articulating the Bible, explaining it, and teaching it. I went from being the person that you'd send me as a 12-year-old to Bible study and I'm going to sleep or I'm trying to tell you why your book don't make no sense to Selena, the ministers are out. Can you teach Bible study?
Wow.
And and that was kind of where I was for not a long time, from I want to say age 14 to maybe 17. Mm-hmm. I'm in a place where I'm going into Hartford and like I'm going to prayer meetings. I'm doing audiovisual. I'm doing evangelism. So we're going out into the community, knocking on people's doors, asking them if they want prayer. How can we help them? What do you need? Giving people money to do their laundry, leading ministries for youth, and just doing all these different things. And like that was my lane of like confidence. And then I go to school. I am just here. Hey guys. Like I have nothing to say, and I really just kind of became like a background character. But then I decide I want to go to school overseas, and money becomes an issue. My parents told me when I was 13, like, you better get a scholarship because we don't got nothing for you. I wish I would have believed them. I do. I wish I would have believed them because they had nothing for me, and I ended up not going to the school, my first school of choice, and I remember crying and having to just figure out what was my pivot. Yeah. And it was in that season of pivoting that I grew more convicted in pursuit of God. And that's actually how I ended up becoming a minister. So now we're like, oh, it's not just I'm not speaking outside, but now I'm preaching and I'm only going outside to talk about God. So and reading God's word was fun because I could always see the deeper meaning in like, what are you trying to tell us and how to live? And what do these people mean? And just studying God's word and really wanting to convey that to people as a bigger message about life. And then I get into this period of, does God really love me? And I fall into this pit of like, I start connecting my faith with my finances. My finances are a reflection of my faithfulness. My finances are a reflection of whether or not God loves me. And so I kind of, my finances take a like just hit after hit after hit. And I fall into this like deep depression that lasts a long time when it comes to faith. But looking back, it was kind of inevitable because my foundation of faith wasn't the love of God, it was the fear of uncertainty. So I ended up going away to school. I'm going to Virginia, and it was there that I'm like, I'm gonna reinvent myself. Like I wanna explore the kind of person I could be. I don't know who I thought I was gonna be. I ain't do nothing crazy, y'all. Like I ain't do nothing crazy. I wore some feather earrings, wore some really like 2 weeks. I go to Virginia, 2 weeks later, my nose is pierced. Before the semester's over, I have a tattoo on my wrist, but it's still about God. Like I'm
tatted up.
I'm just like I'm just trying to figure out like who am I?
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that I was still in a community of people who believed in God, and I was still in a community of people who were sensitive and aware to the fact that I moved different. Like I was very observant. Like I don't know you guys, so I'm gonna watch how you guys interact with each other. I'm just gonna keep watching. I'm gonna keep watching. And I was thankfully connected to a chaplain who was like, "Yo, are you okay?" And he saw I was not okay. I was just like in functioning depression. I ended up starting therapy, and it was in that process of starting therapy my first semester away at college that I realized like I was holding on to a lot of grief, and it was allowing me to be very silent, um, just about life and just in general, like in school. Like that's when I actually started to look at the pattern. Like in church, I was vocal, and I had some things happen in church that kind of made it seem like your voice is not welcome. Be quiet. And so I got quiet there, and now I kind of came to a period where I felt silent. So then I kind of that's how I fell into the let me reinvent myself space. And that's where I really started looking at like, okay, what is going on in the world? I'm majoring in international politics, what's going on in the world, and trying to understand this independently of what academia is telling me to do. So I already have this history of thinking deeply and quietly and not saying anything. What if I said something? What if I said something? So that's where I started to experiment with like just testing and realizing like I don't think like most people around me. Most people are okay with whatever academia feeds them. There's one thing you'll learn about me. Like I have a degree in politics and philosophy. I think academia is about 60 to 70% nonsense. And I think it's fluff. At this point, I believe it was valuable at some point. Right now, it's fluff. Y'all are just rent seeking money out of people. I don't even know what you're doing in these spaces anymore. And if anybody feels alternatively about that, prove me wrong.
That's weird.
Look at your student loans and call Sally Mae, and then look at your income and prove me wrong. But that's a different story for a different day. But I realized I was like, people aren't thinking anymore. They're not thinking for themselves. They're taking in information from a teacher who took information from a textbook, who took information from some data analyzers, and we already are aware that data is a small subset. It's not an accurate reflection of reality, and God forbid someone who doesn't know how to actually collect and sort for accurate data did it. All of this needs to be challenged. We need to be having way more conversation, and that inspired me to say like, okay, it's okay to speak up even if people don't like what you're saying. But somehow I fell back into let me stop talking because people might kill me. That narrative has been running in my brain for a very long time. Let me not talk because people might kill me. Wow. And I ended up going to Jordan to study abroad because I wanted to study peace.
Sorry, it was Ryan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw him in the court. I ended up going to Jordan because I wanted to study peace. I wanted to study peace because one revelation I had for myself was I didn't study international politics because I like politics. I do, but I studied it because I want to create better communities. And I still am a social entrepreneur. I want to use business to solve problems to create a better society. I don't believe that you have to do that with government. I believe that government can be a tool in doing that. But I don't believe that you have to do that with government.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, let me go to a place. Well, actually, my initial thought was to go to South Africa. South Africa, I have no programs that were related. Sorry, South Africa. Y'all got to talk to your school system about that. But the program that had it was Jordan. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to Jordan. Whatever.
Where's Jordan for the people who know nothing about the map like me?
So, okay. So Jordan is in northern Africa, southern Asia, depending on who you ask. It's right next to Egypt. Okay. That's what we can agree on. It's right next to Egypt because I've heard people say it's in Asia, and I've heard people say no, it's northern Africa, but it's right next to Egypt, right next to Israel. So a lot of Palestinians live in Jordan, and so it's a great place to study peace because that's where some peace negotiations for Israel have taken place in Jordan.
Wow.
And so I went to study peace. I studied Arabic and I studied geopolitics. And then at the time, I also went to Dubai, different parts of the UAE. And that was actually the first experience where I started to, like, it was like kind of a glimpse, like, you need to start talking again. I had been, and actually, this is a major jump back. About 3 years earlier, maybe 4 years earlier, I'd gone to a church conference and I was praying and I was led to a scripture, Exodus 4:11 through 14. And it's where Moses is, um, Moses is talking to God and he's like, I can't talk to people. Me. I was like, very much, sir, we are here. And God's like, and who gave you a mouth that you're going to say you can't talk to nobody? And I was like, oh, okay. And still didn't want to, like, just didn't want to do it. And I go to, so fast forward, I'm in Jordan and we have to learn Arabic. They're like, the best way to learn is to go talk to people. Child, I just got here. I'm 3 days out here. You funny. Just taught me how to say I. I can't do this. And then I'm just like, okay. The next thing is I'm put in a lot of weird situations. So I meet this lady who wants me to work for the tourism industry in Jordan. I did not believe her. Thought she was trying to human traffic me. Missed out on an opportunity to go to Switzerland for free.
Really?
Yeah. I ended up working for an economic lobbying firm.
Yeah.
And we write a lobbying paper to get more funding, not necessarily more funding, more subsidies from the in the new tax code for the film industry at the time that Aladdin was being filmed in Jordan. And I ended up going to this World Economic Forum for freedom in the Arab world with all these people who are like business owners in different countries in the Middle East, and I'm like not prepared to talk to anybody because I'm terrified to talk to everybody. I befriend this girl. She's phenomenal young woman. She's just encouraging me like, people want to talk to you. You do understand that, right? And this is kind of the first time I realized I'm like, I'm more afraid to talk to people than warranted. Wow. It progressively has been a process of just like finding my voice to speak. Early on, we're in business together. Early on in business, like you see me do presentations for people, man, they used to laugh at me because I would do these Obama length pauses out of fear of like, I don't want to mess up the next word. I don't want to mess up the next word. And it's honestly just been a process of like learning to find my voice to be able to speak and accepting that I'm not gonna die if I say the wrong thing. And if I say the wrong thing for the right reason with the right intention and I do die, oh well, whatever.
That's fair.
It is what it is. So that's the road I'm on now. Like, okay, if I say the wrong thing for the right reason with the right intention and the right backing, oh well. And you kill me, that's where I want to be. I want to have that much conviction to speak on things that they're important to me. This is what I believe. This is what I stand for. And if I'm wrong, I was wrong living in my truth. I'd rather be wrong living in my truth than be wrong living a lie.
That was very profound. I just want to say thank you for just having this conversation because like there's so many questions that if I start asking questions, we're gonna be here for another hour. But this is my excuse to get you back for another one. So this is the way, y'all. She doesn't even know. I asked her if we could talk for 10 minutes, and I'm glad that she gave me more time than that. Like, and I just learned so many things about her. But thank you for sharing your voice. Thank you for sharing your ideas. Thank you for sharing your journey because I know there's someone out there who feels like they can't talk, right? Or like they're having all these thoughts that they know could change the world, but they might feel like if they open up their mouth, what's going to happen? Like who might, try to kill them, right? Or their dreams or their thoughts or who they are, their identity, right? Talk, we don't realize how like courageous we must be to even like speak our thoughts, especially when they don't align with the way everyone in that room thinks, right? And so that was really powerful. And when you say that, like this conversation makes me think about like as a kid, right? Or like just even at work, everyone can be in a room complaining about like something the boss did, right? And then we're like, we're gonna go say something to the boss, and then you go say something to the boss, and everybody goes, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
so it's very it takes a lot of courage to share your voice on platforms like this, and then also just in the world. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your voice, because your story might set someone free. I know you have a podcast, right, that you have coming out. Speaking of freeing
Just
your
gonna
voice,
expose me. Just gonna expose me.
yeah, we're exposing
Yes.
today. Go ahead.
Yes. I am working on a freedom reform podcast. Just literally, like I said, I'm on a journey of speaking and sharing my thoughts. You can follow me at Freedom Reformed on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube. Stay tuned. Still trying to figure that one out. But just sharing my voice, sharing my journey, and sharing it with confidence that, like, look, this is the life I've been walking. I'm not proud of every stage of it. It's nothing supernatural happening yet, or at least maybe I don't know what it is, but I'm, like I said, progressively learning that your voice is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Use it for good or use it for evil. It's up to you. But if you don't use it, you're probably using it for evil because you're depriving the rest of the world of it. But yeah.
Oh, Selena, thank you. All right, I look forward to our next one. All right, you guys,
Next
thank you
one.
all for watching.
Peace.
That's good. That was